I'm just going to read out the fire safety announcement. The building fire alarm signal is a continuous two-tone alarm. On hearing the evacuation alarm, leave the building by the nearest marked exit route. Follow the green signs, the assembly point, the large staff car park opposite the entrance building. Anyone who cannot use the stairs will be helped by the officers present after other people have left. Do not return to the building until told it is safe to do so by an authorised officer. The whole of the council site is a no smoking area, and mobile phones must be switched to silent. Thank you. I'd like to welcome Councillor Adams as the new member to this committee, as nominated by the leader, Councillor Ash Edwards. And please can you note that Councillor Boutrop gives her apologies. Therefore, I've appointed Councillor de Bell as Vice Chairman for this evening's meeting. Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you.
Would everybody please speak up this evening, even though we've got the microphones? I did notice yesterday that when we had the... I'm sorry, guys. Even though we have the microphones... that was... No, it wasn't. Even though we have the microphones, I did notice yesterday, when we had the meeting, that it isn't always clear what people are saying. I would ask if everybody could remember to speak up as if we didn't have the microphones. Thank you very much indeed. Bless you.
Thank you. So now I move to agenda item 1, which is to note substitutes in accordance with Council Procedure Rule 4. The substitutes for this meeting, I've got Councillor Hicks substituting for Councillor Sparachi, Councillor Cogan-White substituting for Councillor Boutrop, Councillor Trumbull substituting for Councillor Pulfer. Apologies have been received for this meeting. I move to agenda item 2, which is to receive apologies for absence. I've received apologies from Councillor Boutrop, Councillor Chapman, Councillor Pulfer and Councillor Sparachi. Now I move to agenda item 3, that's to receive declarations of interest from members in respect of any matter on the agenda. Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I should declare that I'm a member of West Sussex County Council in respect of item 6. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I move to agenda item 4, which is to confirm the minutes of the meeting of this committee held on the 28th of September. Can I ask members to vote using the microphone touch screen now? Thank you. The vote's now closed. The vote was 10 in favour and we had 2 abstentions. Thank you. I now move to agenda item 5, which is to consider any items that the Chairman agrees to take as urgent business. I have none. So we swiftly move to agenda item 6, which is the Mid-Sussex Wellbeing Annual Report. And I'm going to go to Judy for that.
Thank you, Chair. This is the annual report that this committee is very familiar with. Members will be aware that since 2011, the Council has been providing a health and wellbeing service through the Hub, which is commissioned by West Sussex County Council and is fully funded by them. We have a 5-year contract with them, agreement with them, partnership agreement, to provide the service until now, March 2027. I'm just going to hand over to my colleague Paul Turner, who wants to just run through some of the highlights of the report with you.
Thank you. The Mid-Sussex Wellbeing Hub is a one-stop shop for health and wellbeing services for adults. It provides signposting, guidance and advice to residents and those working in the district. Furthermore, it is a source of information for people referring to health and wellbeing services as part of their work, be that paid or a voluntary capacity. All members of the wellbeing team are highly qualified and they work one-to-one with clients to provide non-clinical advice and use motivational interviewing techniques to support people with health and wellbeing issues to make long-term lifestyle changes. The Wellbeing Hub delivers 8 specific services listed in paragraph 32 of the report, and outlined in further detail in Appendix 1. These are weight-off workshops, wellbeing coaches, falls prevention, workplace health, GP outreach services, alcohol reduction, smoking cessation, and health checks. The service also delivers a number of free community talks on various health and wellbeing issues. There are 4 key achievements of the service detailed in this report. Number 1 is the service recovery from COVID restrictions. Number 2 is the achievements of the workplace health service. Number 3 is the achievements of the weight management service. And 4 is the progress made on the new services, including smoking cessation, alcohol reduction, and health checks. Moving forward to this year's work, the service is in the middle of delivering its agreed business plan with public health, which continues to build on last year's achievements. One point of order for members to know is the service is required to go out to procurement for 2 commission services, which are wellbeing coaches and falls prevention this year. This work is in progress. There are no immediate financial implications arising from this report. And with that summary, Chair, I'm happy to receive any questions from members on the service and its performance.
Thank you very much for that. So now I open it up to debate by this committee. Councillor Gibson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Got 3 questions. Could you give us a little bit more detail on the meaning of highly qualified for the staff involved in this? In terms of the referrals, do we have a breakdown between self-referrals, those by professionals and those by partner organisations? And I just wondered whether or not, I know the West Sussex Fire and Rescue Service do a lot of work on going into people's homes and looking at issues to do with falls and things like that and security. I think I recall they give out slippers, do they? Or maybe that's the wellbeing, but I just wondered if there was any interaction between our service and the Fire and Rescue Service. Thank you.
Can I go to Paul for answers to that? Thank you.
So if I first come to qualifications, so I mentioned in my summary there, all the team are qualified in motivational interviewing. It's a talk therapy that was developed in the 80s around alcohol misuse and smoking cessation. But is now more widely used in behaviour change, and that's a public health requirement for the team, so they do kind of a basic introduction and then advanced in that, and then some go on to do professional qualification in it. As well as that, some of the services you'll note are specialists in their nature, so smoking cessation, for example, we have to prescribe NRT, nicotine replacement therapy. Health checks is a clinical process that you've got to do because you've got to take blood from the individual as part of the health check as well. And then there are various awareness courses that the team undertake as well around physical activity. Or weight management courses, those that deliver the courses are usually exercise referral trained because there's an exercise element to it as well. So that's kind of a summary of some of the qualifications they do. There is a full spec of that which I can provide for you if you want to see more of those qualifications. A lot of them sometimes are awareness on particular issues that are coming up, lifestyle issues. But I'll repeat that we're not a clinical service, it's a lifestyle service. On to your next question, referrals. Yeah, there is a breakdown in the report of last financial's referrals, where we had self-referrals, I think it was around 230 odd, an increase on last year of the previous financial year. And we had GP referrals at 986 referrals from GP and health professionals. Now, last financial year is slightly different to what we would experience in the service because we were still in the COVID restrictions, and so we weren't fully back up to speed, if you will, in terms of referrals. But normally, our GP referrals are around 40 to 50% into the service, and then we've got other referrals, which are broken down into self-referrals or partner referrals. We don't go too far into the granular detail in terms of other community referrals, if you will, but we do break it down into self-referral, health professional referral, but we don't break it down to community partners referral. And then I think your final question was interaction with the fire and rescue services. Have in the past, we've done engagement events with them, and I suppose the service I think about most is around falls prevention. However, we've gone back to a kind of professional referral only into that service, so it's like usually physio or GP referral. You'll note at the back, we've just actually updated our community connections directory services for older people. So that's the sort of thing that we go to fire and rescue teams, prevention assessment teams. Very useful document in terms of like the services available for older people in mid-Sussex. Some of these services are universal for adults as well, and you know, across the county in terms of their service provision, but this is basically for mid-Sussex, so more kind of on awareness of signposting and available services as well. So it'd be literature, I suppose, we'd work with them on them, not particularly referrals, because they tend to be adult social care referrals, I would say.
Okay. Thank you very much. Councillor Hicks.
Thank you, Chairman. Just, yes, about referrals, just to have a bit more detail about where the pressures are in terms of the different strands, and thinking perhaps particularly the well-balanced service, what liaison there is with residential homes in terms of, do you get referrals directly from the homes themselves? Okay.
Can I go to Paul again?
Yeah, thank you. So currently, as it stands at the moment, we have 9 falls prevention courses running throughout the district. There's 162 people on those courses. They're quite long interventions, they're 24 weeks, in line with the guidance. The referrals we get from there are now professional referral only, so we're not actually, although some people may be in care homes, they may be coming through their doctors or physio departments, but we don't do any specific work with care homes in terms of encouraging referrals from them into the service. They usually have to go through a health professional to come into the service.
Thank you. Councillor Ellis.
Thank you. I think it's an excellent report, and I really do love all the, you know, the clients' journeys and the comments and the feedback, and you can really feel where all your work stream's gone, and you can see the response. I just wondered, we got more and more people obviously moving into the district, and we've also got retirement developments coming. Is there any way we can sort of do a bit more? I know people will say you advertise every. Any way that we can sort of celebrate the success of this and get a bit more out about what we do provide here as a district council? Thank you.
Thank you. Can I go to Paul again?
Yeah, we try to promote as much as possible, actually. I mean, we are limited in terms of what we can provide in terms of a service. We are reaching that service capacity. And I think from the new specification we have from public health, there is a drive from public health for us to target more at-risk groups, as they term them. And those are people managing serious mental health illness, adults with learning difficulties, carers, young people leaving care, people whose first language isn't English, and then those in the 20% most deprived areas of mid-Sussex. So whereas it is a universal adult service, and we encourage everybody to come in and we are a signposting service, we also have some responsibilities from public health to target those groups and other groups that sit outside of that as well. So some of it is about improving access to all for the service, not just the universal service as well, and that's probably what we'll be focusing on now that we've hit near capacity with some of the services that we are running.
Well, just congratulations on it. It's excellent work you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I go to Councillor Trumbull, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Of course, I don't characteristically sit on this committee, so perhaps I think about things and look at things a little differently. But I see that, where's it gone? As a council, we are putting into this some £340,000, and West Sussex is putting in 1.8 million. And I note also that we are being asked to consider and endorse the proposed approach for the continued delivery. So it's a fair amount of money, and we're being asked to consider continuing that. And no doubt that amount might well go up. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but looking through the report, it seems that we get figures on where people come from. I've heard some of that already. We've got some individual reports a little later on in the appendices, giving what Mr. Joe Bloggs felt and what happened as a result. But are there any figures on outcome where we can say, gosh, yes, we've invested 340 odd grand in this, and we've actually got 400 grand's worth of outcome from it. So we've got a realistic return on our taxpayers' money. Is there any way I know it's terribly difficult with social outcomes, but is there any way we can look at return on investment from this and positive outcomes and measure those? Thank you.
Can I go to Paul about that? Thank you.
I'll take your first point on the finances. It's actually, so the figure you mentioned there, I think it's 1.8 million. That's the grant that's given to the whole of the county. So each district in Borough and West Sussex run a wellbeing service. Our split of that on annually is £346,000. Yeah. And so what we contribute as a district council is £89,000 towards that.
Contributing 89,000.
Yeah, towards staffing costs.
Sorry, where 346
is coming from public health grant.
I see.
Yeah. On the second point, in terms of outcomes, yes, you're right. So what we currently do in the measures with public health, we have a court report with them and then a final annual report. And the measures for each service are agreed with them in terms of how we provide outcomes that are tangible to, so is it worth us spending this money on this intervention? So, for example, I'll take weight management. We follow the Tier 2 weight management guidance, which I think is listed in the report. And that lists for a 12-week weight management programme that you would expect 30% to lose 5% of their BMI and 60% to lose 3% of their BMI during that course. There are other measures that we use in there that are guided by public health, so it may be scales of well-being or mental health. But each project we have to agree with public health and we have to agree the measures as well. So falls prevention, for example, there's a 4-stage balance test, timed up and go. That has to be delivered by either a physio or PSI instructor. So quite a high level qualification. So if you're interested in some of those measures that we provide, then I'm happy to pass that on and for each project.
So there are outcomes, measurable outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
We know what the outcomes are.
Yes. In terms of cost ratios, I'd have to go back to public health on that in terms of their insight team, but we do have the outcomes from each of those projects, and they usually follow the NICE guidance on those health interventions. Yeah.
Forgive my coming back, Chairman, but from my point of view, if I'm going to endorse the continued use of that, it would be jolly useful to know what those outcomes are. Thank you. I appreciate we don't have them here.
Thank you. Can I just go to Councillor Webster now, who's Cabinet Member for this area?
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to come in on the question from Councillor Trumbull because it's a very important consideration that, and there are a number of national studies which have been done reporting particularly on falls prevention, and the one that I'm looking at from Bristol University is they are quoting a figure of 60,000 older people break their hip each year in England, and it costs the NHS £869 million. So it's a very substantial financial cost, plus there is the impact on that person's quality of life. And it also needs to be considered that people who live in vulnerable circumstances or who are vulnerable take longer to recover, and it costs more to achieve a good outcome for those people. And the wellbeing service do contact clients and follow up and survey the improvements that they have experienced by going through the wellbeing programs. So from that point of view, I think it's a very valuable service. Just as your question is equally valuable. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Webster. Can I now go to Judy Holmes, please?
Thank you. Thank you. Just actually building on what Councillor Webster has said, I think it's really important to understand the context in which we're delivering this service. So this service is commissioned, we're commissioned by West Sussex County Council to deliver the service within a partnership agreement. We're not completely unfettered in terms of what we deliver and how we deliver it. It's prescribed, as indeed the outcomes are. So we are measured against those outcomes. And the County Council will be doing that across the whole piece, across all of the districts, all the Ds and Bs. And we'll be using that information to inform future investments. So they will be exactly doing what you're describing at the county level to ensure that they are getting value for money and actually the interventions are working. And I think what this report does is give you a flavour of some of those outcomes, which are littered throughout in terms of the key achievements, which will give you, so for example at paragraph 30, it gives you an indication of the outcomes from the smoking cessation and alcohol cessation services. And so each of them will have those outcomes, but just to reassure you that this is a very heavily managed in terms of its performance service, and is adjusted accordingly to ensure that we're making those interventions that Councillor Webster has indicated.
Thank you. I don't see any other members indicating they want to speak. I do think it is a good news story, and we should be proud of this service and how it's being delivered in Mid-Sussex. So can I take members now to the recommendations that are on page 11? So this scrutiny committee is recommended to note the performance of the wellbeing service in 2021 to 22 and to consider and endorse the proposed approach for the continued delivery of the wellbeing service through 2022 and 23. So can you now please go to the microphone touch screen and vote on those recommendations? Thank you, members. So that is 13, well, it's disappeared, but it's unanimous. It's 13 members have voted in favour. Thank you very much. Right, so we now go to agenda item 7, which is the leisure contract update. And sorry, I've just got to get the right piece of paper. I'm going to go to Louise first for this. Thank you.
So my colleague Rob will shortly introduce the report to you, and I hope the detailed update is useful. As you'll probably note, we're in a complex commercial negotiation with the leisure provider where we have the aim of returning to our pre-COVID position. So I hope members will understand that we're giving as much information as we can, but we're obviously in a public forum. So there are some details that we're continuing to negotiate with the provider, and we will update you in due course.
And now can I go to Rob Anderton for this report?
Thank you, Chairman. Thanks, Louise. So I'll just give you a very quick canter through the report. Hopefully it's all fairly self-explanatory. But as members will be aware, this is a contract that has been in place since 2014. And when we first secured the contract, we secured it on the basis of a significant annual management fee coming into the council for the management of the 3 leisure centres. Obviously, the pandemic required us to take a different approach to that. The Coronavirus Act meant that we needed to actually assist in the delivery of that service financially and take the financial and operational risk for the duration of the pandemic. We therefore embarked on a process of open book reconciliation and got involved in the contract in a way that we hadn't done historically, where it was very much at arm's length. We secured at the end of last year a return to a management fee for the council, a reduced management fee, but a management fee nonetheless, and transferred the operational and financial risk back to the contractor. We are, however, still monitoring on a monthly basis the performance of the contract financially and operationally, and working very closely with Places Leisure to bring it back to its former operating position. Obviously, what we're now encountering are a whole new load of headwinds in the form of the financial crisis, particularly the cost of fuel and energy, which have a disproportionate effect on operations such as leisure centres, which are very, very energy hungry. So essentially, this report seeks to sort of take you on that journey, talk you through where we've got to in terms of our financial performance, but also start to land some of those messages around some of the risks that we're still trying to manage with Places Leisure to get us back to that former contractual position. And Chairman, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Can I go to Councillor Clark, please?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm apologising for jumping the gun at the last scrutiny meeting because of the questions I asked. You said wait and see, and you've answered some of those in number point 30. So thank you, Mr. Anderton. And so I won't be asking that question because I think the answer is there about the competition I was asking on the last meeting. So thank you. Good report.
Councillor Adams.
Just a question about energy, and you said it's very thirsty in terms of energy use, obviously, if you're heating pools and large building. Has there been any investment in solar or anything else, either by the company that's running it or by us as a council?
Can I go to Rob Anderton, please?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, absolutely. So a lot of investment has taken place over the course of the contract to date, including replacing all of the traditional lighting with LED lighting and so on, and a number of other efficiency measures. This current financial year, Places Leisure are looking to invest in the installation of solar panels on the Triangle Leisure Centre at Burgess Hill, and also to conclude that LED rollout across the remainder of the centres. We're also continuously looking as a team at what else we might be able to do to make the centres as efficient as we can, including green energy and so on.
Thank you. Can I go to Councillor Hicks?
Thank you, Chairman. Could you give us tell us a bit more about how you monitor Places Leisure in terms of, particularly now that it's not open book accounting, how often do we actually see any of their internal accounts? Do we monitor their cash flow position, noting that the last accounts showed they only had 6 days of cash flow if you divide their turnover by the amount of cash they've got in the bank? So I'd be interested to see what mid-year monitoring we do of their financial affairs, what the impact is of the energy costs in terms of what sort of percentage of their costs are energy costs, and what contingencies we have in place if they were to fail or to give the contract back.
Thank you. Can I go to Rob Anderton, please?
Chairman, just to be clear, we are still monitoring the contract on an open book basis. So since COVID, we established that process, and given that we are still not back at contractual position, we continue to do that, and we have external support to support us with that. We get full accounts on a monthly basis, and they are scrutinised to make sure that we're comfortable with what we're seeing. I think the question around what safeguards we have in place should Places Leisure decide to give the contract back are the same as for any other contract. It's certainly on our corporate risk register, and we have contingency plans should that happen. However, the aim of this exercise is very much to avoid that from happening, so we can work alongside a good contractor to get us back to where we both want to be in terms of our operation.
Could I just come back on?
Yes, do come back. Yeah.
Just give us a bit more context in terms of what sort of percentage of their costs are energy costs. Do we know what the sort of impact that we're dealing with in terms of, is it hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands?
Can I go to Rob, or is that a question that we need to have answered at a later date?
Chairman, I think in terms of the percentage, the current percentage, it would probably be something I need to come back to. But what I would point to is in the report where we're highlighting paragraph 12 the fact that last year we were seeing an average energy cost of £175,000 per month compared to previous average monthly figures of around £80,000 per month. But that was obviously a point in time, and those figures have increased further since then. But we can certainly provide that data after the meeting.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Can I go to Councillor Dempsey?
Thank you, Chairman, and thanks very much for the report, which is really comprehensive. I just had a question. I appreciate that, as you said, Louise, you're not in a position to go into detail on the negotiations, but I'd be interested in a general answer as to what influence, if any, the council has over the pricing structure for residents that Places Leisure implements. One specific question is, I know that currently carers, I don't think, get a discount to the same level that OAPs get, for example, which would be a comparatively small number of people, and I know that would make quite a big difference. I think for a swim it's £5.20 for a carer, and it's £2.80 for OAP. So I had a particular question about whether that's the sort of thing we could ask Places Leisure to consider, or whether that's outwith of our control. And just in more general terms, I know that there are different prices that Places Leisure charge over the border in Horsham for their centres compared with the ones here. I know that a direct debit here is £48, and in Horsham it's 36. So again, I suppose the general question is that something we can influence or not? Thank you.
Can I go to Rob Anderton? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think it would be helpful if we could come back with the detail on that subsequent to this meeting. But what I would say is that we control some of the prices. We're consulted on those, and we control some of the prices as a council. Others are for Places Leisure as a commercial entity to control through the contract. So, but we can provide you with some more detail on that subsequently.
Thank you very much. Can I go to Councillor Ellis?
Thank you, Chairman. Could I just ask on page 30, number 30, where it says about, particularly with the arrival of budget gym providers, I think we're really fortunate to have really wonderful facilities in our leisure centres that are well run, and obviously there's membership that's value for money if you take part in all the activities there, and I know a lot you can do as pay as you go. Does the gym offer as a pay you go service, or is it under the contract?
Can I go to Rob again? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it's both. So you can use the gym as a paying member, or you can have a Places membership, which is a free membership where you just pay as you go. Precisely so that we can compete with those other operators.
That's better. Thank you.
Can I go to Councillor Cartwright?
Thank you. 3 points, I think. Firstly, if I remember round about the time of COVID, we were talking about the affordability of supporting our leisure centres. And looking at the figures in very broad terms, the outcome is a lot worse than we thought it was going to be at that time. And they are proving expensive. The previous session resonated with me on this one, because in terms of the benefits to the community of having leisure centres, a lot more difficult to calculate. But clearly, having people fit and healthy is going to benefit broadly in cost savings, the National Health Service and whatever. But I assume that you haven't mentioned, are there any similar outcome measures or outcome assumptions behind having leisure centres? Because that it then moves into the realms of finance and budgeting, and then we lose touch with it. But it's nice to say at this point that they're very valuable and very precious to the communities to have them. you can't answer that, but I'll make the second point. I think that, again, thinking of the triangle, that just down the road there's the new sports centre that's being developed. Are there any plans of getting some sort of symbiosis between the two so that the one will help the other? Because potentially it is becoming potentially a very large sports centre, very conveniently placed in the middle of mid-Sussex. So are there any plans along those lines?
Can I go to Rob, please?
Yes, so certainly on the affordability, Councillor Cartwright, you're absolutely right. It's very difficult to quantify that. But I mean, what we need to bear in mind is that leisure is a discretionary service, but it's something that we choose to do as local authorities because of all those other benefits. So the health and well-being, the social benefits, and so on. And actually, it taps into some of the things that Paul was talking about earlier, because some of those referrals actually are carried out through our leisure contract. It's very difficult, though, to actually, as you say, put a price tag on that. So I don't really know where further to go with that. In terms of the Centre for Outdoor Sports, that project is taking shape at the moment. It's something that we'll be bringing forward over the next month or two in terms of final designs and next steps. But the thinking is very much that, given its proximity to the triangle, that they would operate as a single entity. Different offers, one very much about outdoor sport, one about indoor sport, but that it would be a single offer.
Thank you. Can I come back to Councillor Hicks?
Sorry, thank you, Chairman. Just one other point around discounts for disabled residents in terms of the under 25-year-olds who previously had a discount until March under the, I think it was the Aspire card that they were able to use. And I think some discussions were taking place with Places Leisure, but I just wondered if there's any likelihood of any further discounts to replace what was lost in March could come forward.
Can I go to Rob Anderton, or do we need to come back on that? Okay, can I come to Rob for that? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, as Louise said earlier, we are in a sort of commercial negotiation at the moment, and all of these things are in the mix. So it's something that I think we'd prefer to come back to you later on, if that's okay.
Thank you. Councillor de Bell.
Thank you very much. Do I have to press this again? I can never remember. Yeah. No, is that it? Okay, thank you very much. I'm absolutely delighted. These two subjects that we've just dealt with go hand in glove as far as I'm concerned. Getting people to stop smoking, take more care of themselves, and helping them to do that. Get off cannabis and cut down on the booze and things like that. And also at the same time to make sure that the leisure centres are open, etc., for people to keep healthy and work on their own personal health. And I think this council is actually to be commended for the way that they got quickly back on with the Places Leisure. I mean, it's been a bit stop-start, as we know, because of the pandemic, the way it's been. You know, we started the process of getting back in, and then it was a bit of a problem once again. But it's fantastic that these two things are going together. And we, at the same time, Councillor Hicks mentioned about the costs of the heating, etc. But this is just another sort of aspect of the same sort of thing as COVID caused all those sort of problems that caused niggles and everything else. But I, for one, am very, very proud of our council, the way that it's got back in on this and the other very important issues. So well done and thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to Councillor Dempsey.
Thank you, and sorry for coming back with another quick question. Just looking at the numbers on point 10 over the financial year, obviously there's discrepancy between what was forecast and what was actual, and that's an unavoidable result of what you've described already. But just particularly looking at March 22, there's a really huge difference, and it sort of takes a nosedive to be over 200,000 different from what was forecast. And I just wondered if there was a particular reason for that divergence at that point, or whether that's an artifact of it being the end of the financial year, or if there's something there that needs to be that we should be worried about in terms of why at that point in particular there was this really huge divergence from what was expected. Thank you.
Can I go to Rob Anderson? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, that was energy. The energy costs were fluctuating month on month, and so sometimes there were significant hits, sometimes less so. March was a very bad month.
Thank you. Councillor Adams.
Is it okay just to make a comment, Chair,
Yes,
rather than ask
yes,
a question?
it is.
I just think it's a very important aim for this council to return to the 1.2 million income from Places Leisure, because they are excellent sites with captive population and a population that's growing. So I think that is a good aim in terms of the commercial negotiations.
Thank you. And can I go to Councillor Cartwright?
One further question. I noticed that some leisure centres are talking about having a sort of half measure of not operating with heated swimming pools, or not having the swimming pools open, but maintaining the other activities going in order to save cost, obviously. Is that a feasible option for us, or do we have to go with the whole lot?
Can I go to Rob Anderson, please?
Yeah, obviously we're looking at all sorts of different options to make this affordable, but that's not something that we've been discussing at all with Places Leisure. It's not something that they've approached us around. Some other operators in the near in adjacent authorities have looked at things like that and are either reducing opening hours or closing pools altogether, but it's certainly not something we're looking at here.
Thank you. Can I go to Councillor Gibson, please?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I still have nightmares about house swimming night, which was into an unheated sea water pool, so I wouldn't advise turning the heating off. I want to be a little bit pessimistic, Chairman, I note the point that we do this by choice. It's not a statutory duty to provide these facilities, and we should make sure that they do not place at risk those things which are our statutory duties. It is also, as we've seen, the elephant in the room as far as the budgeting is concerned, that it can really provide a very big counterweight against us. We were remarkably lucky, in my view, to dodge a bullet in the pandemic, that the government did actually meet the costs through the extra grants provided. And one of the reasons that they actually met that cost was that we had a figure of £1.8 million in the operating budget, and therefore that was the figure that they worked to in coming back. Now, my pessimism is really, and this is where perhaps Mr. Clark in the room would be nodding, that we may see COVID come back. And if that was the case, then we would therefore start to be faced with these costs falling against us again, or indeed if the contractor was to walk away. So I think that I echo the comment that we should get back to this figure of 1.4 million as soon as possible, simply because it does offer us protection against and it puts it centre in our vision as to what sort of these costs could really fall at. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for your comment, Councillor Gibson. I don't think we need to go back to you, Rob. I'd like to go to Councillor Trumbull.
Thank you, Chairman. As is outlined in this report, the Council at the moment is in negotiation with the provider. I have no doubt that those are very detailed negotiations, necessarily taking into account a range of variables. We do not know all of those here, and I would not like us to impinge on the sensitivity of those negotiations. I think from my point of view, I see that we are expecting some kind of outcome for the budget setting process for the next financial year. So I'm assuming that by the time, well, I guess we have the budget council in March, we will know more then. Perhaps we might even know that for the scrutiny committee that I sit on in January, I don't know. So I would suggest that we leave it to the good offices of the council to negotiate that on our behalf. I'm sure they will do so to the best of their ability. Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for the comments that have been made about that. I mean, I do think it's, you know, to be commended that we are in a position where actually we have got a surplus. You know, there has been, you know, that Places for Leisure are paying the council money now, and that we're in a better position than we were. So, thank you, officers, for that. I don't see any other comments. Any other members wanting to speak about this. So can I take you now to the recommendations that are on page 27. So the committee is recommended to note the contents of this report. So can I ask, oh, sorry, I've just seen that Councillor Demir would like to speak. Sorry. No, sorry, let me go to Councillor Demir.
Thank you. I just wanted to say I was so glad to see when the figures were going up. I do agree with Councillor Trumbull that we must wait and let these good people have long discussions with PL. I don't think we should forget, though, as has been noted, that this is, as well as having fun in your cold water swim, it is for the well-being and fitness of all our residents, and I think it's a very important service that we do. I'm also particularly glad that we're working with Places for Leisure to develop plans, to look at options, to utilise the facilities to the best advantage of everyone, and also enhance those activities as we have to accommodate a growing population. So I think this is an excellent report, and I'm looking forward to more news anon. But thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Demir. So now, as I don't see anybody else now indicating they'd like to speak, so can I take you to the recommendations on page 27? So the committee is recommended to note the contents of this report. Can I ask you to vote on your touch screen, please? Thank you. That was agreed unanimously. Thank you. So I now move to agenda item 8, which is the Scrutiny Committee for Community, Leisure and Parking Work Programme 2022-23, and I'm going to go to Louise Duffield for that. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, I don't actually have any particular comments on that. Just ask everyone to note the work programme unless anyone has any comments.
I think it's to be noted that in our papers it says the parking strategy and action plan, it says to be TBC, but actually that will come to the committee in February. Councillor Gibson, I see you're indicating.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. It's TBC under the reason for inclusion. I did just wonder why parking strategy was coming back to this committee, given the work that was done so recently on the new parking strategy. And I've got a second question, which is why is the trade request for licensing policy coming to this committee and not to the licensing committee?
Can I go to... can I go to Judy Holmes? Thank you.
So to answer your first question, your second question first, I believe that's because it will come to scrutiny before it goes to the licensing committee for consideration by this committee. I think the parking strategy relates to an annual update on the work carried out against the action plan.
Thank you. Okay, so can I now take members to vote to agree the work programme using the microphone touchscreens again? Thank you, members. That has been agreed unanimously. So I now go to agenda item 9, which is questions pursuant to Council Procedure Rule 10.2, of which due notice has been given. I have none, so I'm going to conclude this meeting at 7:50. I'd just like to say that there is this Community Connections Directory of Services. There are copies at the back of the room, and they are there for all members to take. So thank you very much for attendance tonight.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you.